I don't know. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, so this brings up kind of an interesting part, right, of that whole taxation of automation thing.
Yeah.
And this is so like, have you heard of Steemit?
Steam it.
Steemit.
Nope.
So it's kind of like a Steemit is like a Reddit clone,
Okay.
basically, and it has a sort of a trifecta. It's got three different cryptocurrencies attached to it,
Okay.
and basically the way that it functions is it instead of like upvotes or arbitrary karma or like reputation or whatever, it
Yeah.
rewards cryptocurrency to its users.
Okay.
So it's I don't particularly care for Steemit, um, partly because the culture lends itself to like clickbait pretty hard and that sort of thing. But it does have some really interesting and kind of innovative things where, like, in a sense, like where does the money come from, right? Like where does this money to pay people for upvotes come from? And it's actually like baked into the monetary policy of the cryptocurrency itself, right? Because there's an inflation on Steemit, so Steemit will devalue over time as you use it, or like one or two of the Steem currencies will, and then that inflation basically goes to funnel money into the upvote cash, right?
Okay.
And then there's also limits on like withdrawals. So like certain parts of the currency, it takes like 6 months to withdraw into actual Bitcoin or like a normal cryptocurrency. So it has this whole kind of pyramid schemey type thing, and like you can put money in, but you can't always get it out, and that whole kind of
interesting.
I have a lot of issues with the monetary policy, but there is that kind of like key innovation, right? Where it's like there's sort of this. It's not basic income, right? But like sort of.
I think that's kind of cool because it's like
right.
It's almost like monetizing your attention, which
right.
I think honestly, my kind of personal worldview of the currency of today is that it's attention.
Your classic attention economy type of
rather than like value currency or money. It's actually like becoming very rapidly, if it isn't already, like which sites you're going to, what you're gonna be watching,
right?
What people put their attention on. So that's like a super interesting concept.
So then the other part of this, right, is like you have this whole things in cryptocurrency. Like Ethereum is the big one where they're trying to push this thing called decentralized autonomous organizations.
Okay.
Right? And people in cryptocurrency spheres basically are advocating for, like, the DAO was the big one with Ethereum that got hacked, and then Ethereum basically like rolled back the currency. And it was kind of a big issues with that. Like a lot of people in the cryptocurrency sphere are like pretty scammy, and I don't care for a lot of them. Not to throw shade at anybody specifically, but it's just like in general, I think the principles are maybe sound, but I think people sort of tend to subscribe to technological solutions more than they should. But that said, I think this principle is sound, right? Where what's the purpose of a corporation, right? The purpose of a corporation is to organize labor and exploit economies of scale, right? A corporation is an organization that organizes labor. It tells you who and when to work for. And the reason that it does that is because...
I would maybe disagree with that. I would say...
what?
Well, I would agree with the second part of your definition, which is to exploit economies of scale, but I don't know if it's to organize labor. I think that's more the purview of like unions. If that's
okay. I don't mean like to organize and support workers, right?
Okay.
I just mean to direct where in the economy, like to say, okay, we have this need in the economy. Someone needs to do this job. Let's find somebody to do it. That's the job of a corporation, right? To say, like, in order to make this money, we need 10 people to accomplish these specific goals. So we're going to hire 10 people.
Yeah, I mean...
Right? I mean, that's fair?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's definitely within the scope of what they do. I don't know. To me, the definition of, like, a corporation or a business would be different. It'd be like... it would be to create or provide a product or service that, based on whatever the economy sets the rate of that to be, to provide that product or service to people.
But why can't independent contractors do that? Why do you need a corporation to do it? Why can't we just have a world of independent contractors?
I mean, we could, but then you would have a very messy legal and tax structure situation where it'd be like, let's say Walmart, drops like Walmart's ladder isn't built right, so it falls on Bob. So Bob can't sue Walmart; he has to sue Jimmy Schmidt, the guy who built the ladder in Arkansas or something like that. It'd be very difficult and messy to deal with, I think.
But you could argue,
situation.
right, that that's like a result of economies of scale. You know what I mean? Like at a certain point, if you're producing enough of something, you need to have the legal infrastructure to defend against lawsuits against your product, right? And it's not feasible for an individual contractor to basically fight that legal infrastructure, right? If Jimmy in that situation could be sent into bankruptcy by just one lawsuit, right? Whereas Walmart has the resources necessary to defend against it.
Yes, but it would be very contentious for Jimmy to sue Bob the ladder builder or whatever, or even find out who he was in that case.
But this kind of goes into the Uber thing, right? Where it's like, do drivers pay for their own insurance, or does Uber pay for the insurance?
So I actually know the backstory of that pretty well.
Yeah.
So I asked my insurance agent about that because I was thinking about becoming a driver for Uber. I still am. But so insurance agents really don't like it. Because what Uber does is they will let you drive for them, and then they say, scan your insurance and send it to us, right? But apparently they don't actually check your insurance because you're supposed to have a commercial insurance license, technically, if you're a driver.
Right.
And if you don't, you just have a regular one. They are supposedly supposed to check that and not let you drive, but there's no legal requirement.
Right.
So if you crash into someone while driving for Uber, all of a sudden you're legally responsible for incurring all that cost.
Right.
I don't know where that was going. That was my side story about Uber.
No, that totally. I mean, to me, that's like Uber is basically externalizing the costs of running a taxi service. Right.
Yeah.
They're foisting that cost onto their employees.
Yeah, especially the cost of that insurance. So
and the insurance companies.
So that in that case, if you're just Bob, the independent contractor who works for Uber, which is kind of how it's set up, if you happen to crash into someone and cause a $45,000 medical bill for them, you're responsible for that, and that's like a risk that you have to take as an independent contractor. And if like our whole economy was just independent contractors, just based on that, there'd be a whole heck of a lot of people's like livelihoods just getting completely ruined because they don't have like insurance to be able to pay. They don't have like legal defense that they would be able to pay for and stuff like that. Because the prices, all that stuff is like kind of set by the market. And
so here's my problem with Uber, right? Is they're basically trying to they're trying to have the best of both worlds, right? They're trying to exist in the same structure as a decentralized autonomous corporation would be, right? Yeah. Where like a decentralized autonomous corporation would say, okay, there's somebody needs a ride, right? So somebody can go pick them up. They will make $12, and each independent contractor can decide whether or not creating that ride is worth it for them. But because the thing is decentralized, it's operating on a blockchain or through some kind of there's no corporation that's in charge of it that's taking a cut from everything, right? Like, basically, it's just the computer doing it. And the computer's not making a cut. It's just software that's running, and there's miners running it, and so it's all happening autonomously. So while everything is still a contractor world, and people might be liable for their insurance stuff, it's like, okay, well, at least there's no corporation taking a cut, right? Whereas with Uber, it's like they're basically trying to do the same thing but take a 20% cut from all car rides.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like they're neither accepting the social responsibility of employing taxi drivers and being a corporation, but they are reaping the benefits of having a corporation that employs taxi drivers. So
it's very unregulated and kind of interesting in that way, but on the opposite side of things is because of that, it provides like and has been able to expand its services so greatly. It provides a really great service. At least I think that
Right.
if you're someone who needs a taxi ride, you can get it, or a ride somewhere, you can get it on the cheap from Uber.
Especially in Bozeman, where like
yeah.
a taxi ride's like $20 for like 11 blocks, and it takes 45 minutes for them to show up.
Yeah.
Like,
No, yeah, in Bozeman, like before Uber came here, I literally paid, I think it was like $45 or $50 to get from like the downtown area out to the airport.
Yep. Yeah.
Like one way.
Yeah.
But with Uber, it's like $10. Right?
Yep.
So like, you know, there's like all this kind of, you know, what's the perfect structure, what would work best type of thing, and then there's like what it actually is. And what it actually is people driving for Uber get to make money. Do they incur risk for not having commercial insurance? Yes. People riding with Uber get to save a whole heck of a lot of money and not really incur any more risk than if they, you know, were riding in a taxi, unless, you know, they crash and die and then the Uber driver can't pay for their medical bills or whatever. So
like what I see happening in the future, right, is Uber gets replaced by a autonomous, like a decentralized autonomous corporation.
Okay.
Right.
In a decentralized autonomous corporation theory, how do they kind of sustain themselves or exist?
So in the same way Bitcoin exists, right? Because Bitcoin is a decentralized currency. I mean, there's political issues and there's social issues, and I don't want to understate, you know, I think those issues are really important. But the fact is that, like, technologically, Bitcoin exists. And
right.
Bitcoin is a list of transactions that has no central organization running or maintaining that list, which is completely different than the Federal Reserve. It's different from banks. It's different from any monetary system that we know of, right? And I'm not saying Bitcoin's this, like, futurist utopia, because I think there's a lot of problems with that idea, right? But, like, technologically speaking, the solution is there, right? Like, that's something that can exist.
Yeah, I guess it can. I guess the kind of big question is then, like, will it exist? In both terms of will, like,
sure.
Does it have the will to exist? And, like, can it continue? Because, like, in that case, let's just say Uber didn't take a cut, right?
Right.
So that would mean they wouldn't make any money, and therefore whoever runs Uber is disincentivized from expanding their service.
Right. So I think it's going to break down to economic incentives, right? It's fundamentally, it's like if you have a product that is performing the same service as Uber but not taking a 20% cut, right? From the employee side of things, you're going to go with that company.
Yeah.
Right? Because they can operate more efficiently. When it comes down to it, is they can outperform the centralized organization. In the same way that Uber is able to outperform conventional taxi companies, right? Because they've basically externalized all these costs and they can provide a better product.
Theoretically, yeah. Where I kind of lose this theory is like where, like, who, like, how then are they incentivized to, like you said, there's economic incentives. So, like, how then are they incentivized to, like, grow Uber? Basically,
or the decentralized Uber replacement?
Right, the decentralized Uber replacement.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, right, the big social issue, right, is how does this type of thing get...
Yeah, because, like, if you're not making any money on it, then, which is, I mean, it just is the prime incentive for a lot of people to do anything. So if you're not making any money on it, how are you getting other things that you need? How are you, you know, why do you want to grow this thing, right? Like,
right. Well, I mean, okay, so at this point, I'd be willing to bet that the smallest portion of Uber's business costs is coding and app development. I could be wrong on that. I don't use Uber that much, but I get the sense that, like, Uber, the app, doesn't update that often. And it pretty much works as it is.
Their biggest costs are probably, like, marketing and then legal.
Legal stuff. Yeah. I would guess lobbying is a big cost for them at this point, right?
Probably, yeah.
And so, like, so I think that the actual question of, like, what would incentivize developers to work on this sort of thing is probably a bit of a smaller one. And that's a solution that really hasn't been solved. Like a lot of open source projects have tried various solutions for like crowdfunding and yada, 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 but nothing has really kicked in, right?
Right. So like the thing is and I hear what you're saying, just to me, at least the examples I know of the thing with that being is it doesn't provide the same incentive as like earning money does.
Sure, but Firefox exists.
Right. No, like Firefox exists, Linux OS exists.
Right.
All that, But are any of those things like as successful as Microsoft or Apple or Uber, for example?
I mean, it depends on how you look at it, right?
Right.
I
guess
mean,
then you
from
get
a
into
certain
like,
argument,
when
it's
do you
like
what do you define success by?
Right, where it's like you have this question of like, okay, will Linux ever take over operating systems, right, as a thing?
Yeah, see the thing
but
is,
like you can kind of argue that it has. Because Android is Linux based, right? OS 10 is Linux based.
Okay, but so we're looking at this on like a MacBook Air.
Right.
Is my thing. So like, I don't think that decentralized, whatever will overtake the economic incentive of like creating a product and marketing a product that people will use a lot more, like a MacBook Air, for example. Like that would be super nice. That'd be super nice, but I just practically I don't see it happening.
Okay, so let's use the perspective of like a Facebook alternative, right? So I've said for a long time that I don't think Facebook's going to be around forever, and I think one of the things that could very quickly kill Facebook, right, is like Facebook makes $10 off of you, right? Like off of your user profile, Facebook makes $10 a year. Off of selling your advertising info, off of demographic research, off of having your information to do with as they will, right?
Yeah, I'm sure that's a part of their business structure for sure.
I think it's pretty much all. I mean, they're trying to develop AI and all this other stuff, right? But like that's basically their value proposition at the moment, right?
It's the ad revenue that they make off of.
Which is demographic research, right?
Yeah, well, it's driven by demographic research.
Right. They wouldn't have a product that they were like...
No, yeah, like your profile is like Facebook kind of proprietary, more or less.
Right. And so I think like, what if tomorrow there was a social network that said you can have $10 a year for joining this social network? Or you can get paid money based on how many views you have, right? Which kind of like what YouTube does or something like that. Mm-hmm. But
cool idea. Just whoever creates it, / maintains it, or whatever large group of people that would have to do that to pay for servers, to pay for those people's salaries and whatever, they'd have to be economically incentivized in some way themselves, or I just don't see it being like practical for those people. I think ideally it would be awesome, but will it overtake like Facebook, which is driven by a bunch of economically incentivized people? I don't think so.
I mean, this is Steemit, right? And the front page post on Steemit, $127. And it was back when Steemit was doing its like, they kind of structured the monetary system so that there was a ton of money happening early on, and then it kind of petered out a little bit. Ponzi, it's kind of got that Ponzi vibe a little bit. But early on, when Steemit was making news stories and stuff, these were like $15,000. People were making like $20,000 for a top page Steemit post, which is absurd. I made $150 for posting a song on YouTube, and I think I got like 57 views.
Yeah, I
mean, like this analytics, I got $150, but when I went to my YouTube analytics, I had like less than 60.
Yeah,
it's like.
But I think that's a cool thing. That's awesome. But there's also like a reason that I've never heard of Steemit before. It's like it's
a super fringe cryptocurrency website.
Well, that's kind of my point though too. Is like it's not. for whatever reason, it's not driven by the same level of marketing slash innovation slash whatever you want to call it to make it
But I
interesting
think
for
like
people to use.
Dig, when it was very early on, was very much a niche website. Reddit, when it was very early on, was a very niche website. Facebook started as a college exclusive thing. I mean, I think like most social media networks are like
Yeah.
90% of people won't hear about them for the first 5 years of operation. You know what I mean? Like these ones that become like huge mainstream things, like all start out as fringe things.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just kind of like a wait and see with that
Right.
type of perspective. Because
all I'm saying is this is something that exists and is paying people money currently.
No, I mean, I believe it.
Producing social content. I think a lot of the content is bad. You know what I mean? And it lends itself to clickbaity stuff. And there's all sorts of. I think basically the limits are the interface.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure, but like I mean, my thing is like that interface is driven by people who maybe, like you said earlier, it's kind of Ponzi scheme-ish. So
right. I think the Steemit developers' financial incentive is that they were the first people to have the Steemit currency, and as everything got popular and hyped up, they made a lot of money.
Yeah, and I mean, there you go. Because, like, you know, I mean, if it's set up in that way, where it's like a decentralized thing, but the people who are actually, you know, the real people behind it are like, you know, leeching away from it, rather than just being honest. Like, let's just say Facebook, for example, like they're just being honest. Like, you have the choice whether or not to use our product, but you know, we will have your proprietary information for ad stuff, like Google. That's like just more in your face kind of honest business rather than like, I mean, not to get too political, but what like kind of a super decentralized model makes me think of is like more of a socialist or communist political system, where it's like ideally it sounds really awesome, but then when you get down to it, it's actually run by a couple of people who are really screwing things up for everybody in it.
I mean, yeah, maybe. But I mean, is it better or worse than stockholders and venture capital?
Well, capitalism's lasted longer than communism, I'd say, as far as like the world stage. So, I would say slightly worse.
Because I mean, this is like the ANCAPs and the libertarian people who advocate for this stuff, right? All of the like esoteric, like the Free State Project was on Steemit. All of the like, you know, like
which I agree with,
forward-thinking libertarian people. Really, there's like no socialists on it, which is this weird irony. Because I don't think you're wrong. I think this is probably like, to me, it's like the digital, decentralized, autonomous thing is the post-capitalism Marxist society, right? It's not a top-down command economy. It's not somebody saying this is how things are going to be, but it's a new paradigm of sort of the proletariat and the bourgeois, you know, like that whole thing.
Yeah. But, you know, I don't know. I think for me it remains to be seen if like digital systems will completely change our natural human ways of structuring things. And
well, I mean, Uber exists.
Right. Well, you know, yeah, exactly. But, you know, Uber operates within the principles of capitalism, more or less. That's how, like, it works. It just works in kind of an innovative way of, like, a shared economy or capitalism. I think shared economy stuff is really cool.
What,
it's somewhat
you mean
similar.
Like resource sharing? Or you're like using digital technology to redistribute, to use already existing resources? Well, that's the line that you Uber people use all the time, right?
Yeah. I mean, pretty much, you know, like you're providing. Well, it's like essentially a platform service that takes a cut, is what its capitalist kind of view would be. But what it does is like it connects a whole crap ton of people to a whole other crap ton of people providing services and needing those services.
Right.
So it's like it almost, I think what it does is it creates a huge market for service providers, rather than just having like one thing be like this is the Uber company. We hire people, we pay them salary, that sort of thing.
Right.
No, it's just something you sign up for on your smartphone, and you do it whenever you want, right?
So the philosophy that like a bunch of these
Let's share
Silicon Valley people espouse, right, is that basically that you're in a weird way like redistributing resources, right? Not in the conventional like top-down socialist sense, right? But basically you're saying that there's an unused pool of cars. That we have this supply of cars that aren't being used all the time to move people around.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's more efficient to use technology to better distribute those unused cars to provide the service of taxing people, rather than to have a separate company which owns a taxi fleet, right? And then uses that to ferry people around, right? It's eliminating this idea of the company is supposed to own a separate fleet and replacing it with this idea of the company can reallocate already existing resources to more efficiently provide the service that was previously being offered.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that whole method of thinking operates within like capitalistic optimization of a business model or something.
I agree with that.
So, yeah.
But I think I would take it one step further, and I think technology has enabled us to reallocate those resources in a way, right? And in however you want to use the perspective, whether it's 15 years of mobile phones or 35 years of internet or whatever the technology you decide is important, I think that trend will continue. And I think as technology gets smarter and more efficient, I think there will be ways of reallocating resources that require less and less and less human input, to the point of like, not only are we going to automate the cars, but we're going to operate the currently human we're going to automate the currently human resources who are currently allocating those cars.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like,
sure. And I mean, that's just all off of optimization and efficiency of that's basically the free market.
Right.
What you described is like technological innovation in the free market, the direction it's going. And yeah, so I agree with all of that. So like, my thing would be like, if you try to like command and control any of that.
Right. I think that's dangerous.
Like that will work. And then I think if you like, I don't know for sure, but like just having a whole different model, like decentralized stuff, I don't think it would develop as efficiently as like how technology is currently accelerating the economy, for example. So
I didn't follow that last part.
Like Steam It, for example. Like technology is currently accelerating Facebook, but they're also incentivized. Like everyone who's worked there is incentivized by being paid a salary by Zuckerberg or whatever,
right?
Because he owns the majority share of the company. Because people own things. Like in our country, people can own property. Like people have property rights and stuff. So, like the ability to have that is like the model behind what drives Facebook to be, at least I think, far more successful and technologically kind of pushing everything forward. And it'll continue to get weirder and weirder, I'm sure.
Do you think Zuck's going to run for president?
No.
No?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think him restructuring the stock options in his business and like doing a listening tour of all 50 states, you don't think that suggests political ambition?
To be honest, no. I don't think so.
You think he's just trying to meet new friends?
I think he's a super rich dude who wants to look like he's not as rich as he is. So he goes around and does stuff that actually somewhat matters to him. I guess.
Well, that seems optimistic to me.
Yeah.
I don't know, because to me, it's like if I'm looking at it, right, and if I'm running Facebook, I think I probably have a solid, like, I don't want to use the phrase mind control or whatever, right?
No,
but
you got a really solid platform for sure.
For maybe like 5% of Americans.
Yeah.
Like if I want to start a protest for 5% of Americans, I can manufacture 3 news articles in a way and make sure everyone on Facebook sees them, and then those 5% will go protest. Or if I want to drive those 5% out to vote, I can do that too. Right?
I mean, you're not wrong. I think he probably realizes that, but I don't think he's like quite as conniving as all that. I think he probably actually values pretty much what he says he does, which is like just connecting people and kind of pushing how far we can connect people and stuff. I don't know. It seems like most of his actions are centered around that or investments.
Do you know that quote, right? The like, if you ever need personal information on anybody at one of the Ivy League colleges, just hit me up.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, how'd you get that? He's like, they gave it to me. They trust me.
Yeah. No, I mean,
and of course,
with great power comes great responsibility.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe it's overly optimistic, but it's not underly optimistic either. Like I don't think he could be super evil, but I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, like, for example, Facebook's pretty great. Like, it's connected billions of people who otherwise wouldn't have any sort of connection with other people through the internet.
Well, I think Facebook's pretty evil.
Yeah?
I think, yeah. As far as organizations go, I think Evan Moglen used the phrase to fasten the yoke of authoritarianism upon the human species. And I think that's sort of apt.
Interesting.
But I don't know. I may just be biased as far as that. I tend to be pretty skeptical of a lot of the Silicon Valley scene. I think there's a lot of crossover between like the CIA and Silicon Valley. I think. Yeah,
there's a lot of like data mining and kind of violating people's personal liberties and stuff that comes from data mining. So I don't know. It's definitely interesting.
And I mean, well, and also just more than that is like surveillance, right? Yeah, surveillance goes beyond data mining to the point of like listening and harvesting conversations. Yeah. And it's like, does that get used to enact social change? And if so, how does it get used to enact social change? Are people being, is Facebook monitor? Does Facebook Messenger keep its microphone on and record your conversations? Mm-hmm. If so, what is it doing with them?
And those are important questions, and I think they like really help to kind of advance the conversation. But like, at least for me, like the only thing I can do is decide whether or not I want to use it, and if like I guess I like it, and then share that with other people. And for me, I think it's been a good thing. I don't know, lets me connect with people that I wouldn't really know what's going on in their lives if I didn't have it and stuff. So
yeah.
There's trade-offs, there's benefits and losses.
But I mean, the internet did that.
Yeah.
Right? And the internet was developed not under the purview of a corporation, sort of under the purview of DARPA, but like it definitely branched out and became more than that.
Yeah, but there's no one place where,
Yeah, there was. It was called the internet.
Well, but there was no one place on the internet where most of the people would go and like share things about their lives on or something.
Yeah, the internet. They would have websites. No. People could have their own websites.
Yeah, but
there's no one place on Facebook where people go to share all their stuff. Everyone has their own
echo wall. Chamber. You just scroll through your wall.
No, but every wall is different.
Yeah, but like your newsfeed. Okay, I'm saying your newsfeed.
Every newsfeed is different.
Yeah, but it's based on like who you follow and stuff. And like,
but so is the internet.
Not if you'd have to have some kind of aggregator to show you all the individual sites of whoever. That
like
you
RSS.
Yeah, like a better version of RSS. But Facebook made it so it was easy for everyone to do. You just do a profile, and like there's a reason like why it became so popular and why it has 1.5 billion plus users. Is because it's like. It's really easy to understand, and it plays off of basic human emotions of connecting with other people.
Right. I think it definitely is a usability upgrade from like raw HTML
like RSS.
Or something like GeoCities. Yeah, or RSS.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no doubt of that.
But I think it's a benefit to me anyway. But like I said, all you can do, like what I really believe is all you can do is decide what you do. So
I think that's true to an extent, but for anyone like I'm a comic, right? And for promotion, it's like Facebook's basically necessary. Like when I didn't have a Facebook, I missed dozens of gigs. And I always had promoters be like, "Oh, I really wanted you to come to that show, but I couldn't get a hold of you because you didn't have Facebook."
Well, I mean,
so network effects
my
are a very
case in
powerful
point,
thing.
I guess.
Like,
yeah, there's my case in point, I suppose, then, because, like, you know, it's become this thing that's such a thing that it actually affects your life in certain ways.
right.
Is that, you know, generally right or wrong? I don't know, but it is what it is. And so...
so I don't support telecom companies either, right? I think telecom companies are kind of some of the worst companies on the planet.
But you have to get charter internet.
Right. There's no other choice. And I've gone through phases where, like, I didn't own a cell phone for 6 months.
Yeah.
Right? And, like, that was
and you can do
political it's doable, but it's definitely, like, you're off the grid, so to speak. Like, you don't have the same access.
It's hard when, the grid, quote unquote, is like monopolized almost in one way or another.
Right.
So, yeah.
I don't know. Just,
I don't know. Good conversation.
Good conversation. Let's end it there because this has gotten super long. I think we're over an hour.
Yeah, you probably cut out like the last 30 minutes.
Nah, why would we do that?
I don't know.
I don't edit things. All right, thanks for listening. If you